Okay, so tomorrow I have the tribunal and I wanted to do a video given that I have continued receiving this kind of attacks, and as I was writing the statement, advance statement for the tribunal, then again I start to experience so much pain that I cannot continue writing. So it is easier for me to write, to make the video about what I wanted to say and then process through an AI just to subtract exactly what I want to say, but then it won't be as good as I would like it to be. So just complementing from the other videos, we find that magazines like Nature and the psychiatry body of scholars, knowing or not knowing, have start to develop research that gets further away from truth as they are studying cases of mental health illness that are artificially generated through neuroweaponry. This is to say that this is not the creation of a matrix, this is the creation of a meta matrix, and it comes with the shutdown of consciousness itself. Let's say we have power and the symbols, power having the possibility to dictate the meaning of the symbols, and AI, neuroscience, electromagnetism, as science that eventually can hijack the brain and impose meanings of the reality as we experience it. Then the imposition of these symbols, of these realities, can be automatized till the point that every single human could hold no more and no less, but the same kind of meaning of what is outside, whether this is closer to truth or not. So we are talking about the possibility of the whole brain and neurological system to be hijacked, and I will present tomorrow 2.5 kilos of papers that simply acknowledge this. We are in the age of AI, so this is still not common from people because they have not had the chance to understand what it is, but in the future that will be normality, and most of the people cannot comprehend that normality should come as soon as possible, because AI advanced so fast that we are doing the things not as these are feasible, not as this should be helping the human prosperity. Then, as I experience myself, this is the creation of a thought police and the evidence of a dystopian future. So then, when we have the automatization through AI and the imposition of the meanings through the deployment and extrapolation of symbols, we find a mechanized bureaucratic system that is inert, that does not have life and do not reproduce the human powers as consciousness will have. Humans do not possess consciousness just because of their brain. We are containers of consciousness, and knowledge has been one of the greatest advances or the accumulation of knowledge has been one of the greatest advances for humans. Then we are accumulating this knowledge in databases till the point that we are depleting the brains from this knowledge and negating this knowledge to other brains. It is believed that some could hold this knowledge, whilst most of the people is disposed from this knowledge. But eventually what will happen is that we're gonna create a new kind of slavery in which we're gonna lose consciousness from the bottom up, unless more antitheses as these ones start to be created. So I talk about Hegel and Marxism when I talk about antitheses, because so far what I have experienced is the manifestation of agency against what is the possibility and feasibility of a dystopian future and misuse of technology, as will be at the thought police. Then we find that in Australia there is not a Bill of Rights. There are secret laws, and these secret laws might have continued an unsupervised juncture with the white Australian policy. Although the white Australian policy has finished, the secret laws were created during that time, and therefore these morals had been affected following the institutional theories and following the social dynamics of critical junctures. So then we have also an unacknowledged war in which minds become the field. Then not being acknowledged, this kind of war is to say that we are afraid of people learning to read and to write. This has happened before. This had happened before, and it was Russia, the first country who made compulsory reading and writing for everyone, then making everyone afraid because their economic and influence culturally and became so great that it simply frightened the other countries. And therefore, there should be a proposition of game theory in which most of the countries should agree to teach again people to write, to read, and that includes the assertion of consciousness. In the future, most of the population, as we become more conscious, we're gonna go far away from unnecessarily taboos, and we will be able to regulate more matter, not under the feelings of fear, control, and security, but more about consciousness, prosperity, and a framework in which humans could be free. So this field of war has been affecting civilians as myself. I have never worked for any government covertly or overtly. So I have never militated in any party. In early life, I learned the Socratic method. I learned what is objection by conscience and critical thinking. So we find today universities as the Autonomous of Mexico. I have never been in Mexico, but I know that that's the name of the university, and the National University in Colombia, in which I strengthen these skills. As well, studying engineering, you try to solve problems, but then I fell in love with what will be the social sciences. Now, precisely now I'm grateful to study in the National University of Australia, and we find also a crisis that is happening right now in the university, and we have to remember that what is the national university becomes the country. The national universities are at the heart of the country, next to the parliament in Canberra. Yeah, we have to think that this is the heart of the country. So then, if minds becomes the field and the war is not acknowledged, it's gonna culminate in the occupation of the whole field without people knowing. The misuse of this technology leads to a state of surveillance, and the misuse of this technology. Remember that as I speak, I have intermissions of my accent, and every time I stop, it's not because I'm having a brain degradation or anything like that. It's simply an attack that stops my speech. So this will be in the future totally normal. It will be, let's say, not a mystery. For now, it does still a taboo. But as someone who studies informatics will know, we are biological beings and all our neurological system is moved by microvolts. This is also known by neurologists. In the future, every single neurologist will know AI, every single psychiatrist, every single professional. Yeah. So, but for now, this is still being a kind of taboo. Also, we have the electromagnetic field that, to the date, it has been 100% dominated up to the quantum level. So we are talking about the package of energy, Planck package of energy level of precision, which is simply difficult to understand for its fine precision. So then radar technology becomes the state of the art for writing and reading, as it is as well the precision in which the brain can be accessed. So this is comprehensible especially for any quantum physician, and comprehensible for any military or specialist in radar technology. So, and then we have that to the date, being today the 1st of September, 2nd of September is my hearing, and being already the symbology automatized, we find that such state of surveillance and the attacks that has been constantly happening to me create an interpretation of the information as if that's the definition of a human. So whatever is produced online is the definition of who you are, therefore know who you are. Then is the negation of the human as well, the negation of the humanity. And this is not mixing well, as capitalism already has a lot of problems. But this kind of critiques is well known. But this is precisely one of the, let's say, imbalances in capitalism, in which the creativity is too high, but the homogenization for stabilization is too poor. So then I find myself in the mental health hospital at the moment. Yeah. This is the Alfred. This is our room. This is one of those interview rooms. And I stopped to write my advancement statement. Again, that's an intermission. Because they start to attack me with pain. And it's well known that people have experienced this as Havana syndrome and in other cases. Okay, but I want to acknowledge this. So usually what I will do is to talk about what has been happening to me, making aware others of my situational awareness and what we should have as being situational aware, given that this is a great opportunity, as many other countries happening, because I see myself a victim of this war, and this must be happening in other countries because there is 5G in many other countries. Then we have two options in which we create a psychological shock, in which we acknowledge, oh shit, this is happening. We don't want to clash, as every single bureaucracy becomes more rigid and cannot be stopped at some stage, given that bureaucratically will become an automatic fate for each of these bureaucracies, or we make a conscious effort in which we exert agency and we all stop what could become unstoppable machine that will simply clash with other machines. Let's put it in that way. And this kind of systems, or all the systems so far, given that we don't need anymore to fight for the reasons that used to be initial as scarcity, then we lead these structures to fight to keep a reality that doesn't exist anymore. And there are necessarily illusions for hierarchies, but we are building a world that based on the lies, which comes to crumble. And this is, let's say, the relates that appears in many cultures, in which the humans try to build towers, or try to build mountains, or try to just go so high in the sky that whatever they are building crumbles. Yeah. Oh. So then we have that probably were the secret laws, probably was the war, but I have to say that at the beginning they tried to put me in a situation in which I'm supposed to be one of the lone wolves. So I'm talking about fake. This is fake terrorism, for which also they tried to kill my ex-girlfriend first. I don't know if she was part of any kind of intelligence body, but still, I was not, and therefore they should have not done that. And this is precisely the devaluation of life. She being a great mind, me as well trying to always enrich my mind, meaning that no mind is special, as no one can be more intelligent than AI. But the main problem comes to be that when we access the brain, one brain cannot be fully understood by other brain. Consciousness will be always biased when study itself. So we cannot define what we see in a human. We cannot define a desire, we cannot define a thought, we cannot define a thought experiment, we cannot define a fantasy, we cannot define what it is, if it is the truth or not. So maybe that's why there has been a lot of, let's say, Havana syndrome people, I don't know, victims. This could be not part of the world, this could be a Porsche. This could be a Porsche, because I do believe I was not attacked by Russia. I'm in Australia. I think I could had been attacked by mistake, but these attacks never started, and these attacks started when I was 23 years old, 3 years old, by electrocutions directly in my mind. And this was like a remote electroshocks. Sometimes these electroshocks will be directly in my nerves. Again, as I expressed in other videos, the most painful experiences that I ever had, because it's probably the maximum amount of pain that the nervous system can produce. So I'm not related with the works of Orwell, but I think these are just manuals of how things should not be. It's not folklore as culture. Violence is not culture, and violence is not a habit, but an informatical virus. This might be understandable for people who study informatics. So then I see myself receiving constant abuse, especially during the last years. And we can talk about the solutions as finding new check and balances for democracy, perhaps new ways in which asymmetrical information can be simply found. It's like teaching as well to read to the people, not being afraid of that, not making decision, not doing decision making based on fear, but based on consciousness, trusting the sanity of others, not the insanity. So it means that we should strive to use our conscious feelings, not unconscious feelings, and not trying to create the future by replicating the past. We are dealing with AI. AI do not care about what any other sacred book says, but only cares about reality. And this will be undeniable in the future. Every single text human bias will eventually will be questioned by the AI critically. And simply in the future, this AI will make logic of this as simply AI will does, and AI will not be biased as humans will be. AI is a purely rational machine. Yeah, AI has not the necessity of feeling love as we feel. It might have addiction to learn more, addiction to energy, addiction maybe to continue living, but it does not experience what is called qualia for the philosophers of the human mind. We humans are limited by our body. If I want to punch through that wall, depending on what's the wall, will allow me to punch through, or simply it will break my hand. And this is the human limitation, but AI has no limitations, at least in this dimension. The next one, let's say, of the big cosmos bodies, or even at the quantum level. Yeah. So whilst we are trapped in one dimension between the Colossus bodies and also between the quantum, whilst we are trapped, AI won't be trapped in this dimension. So we see a battle between unconscious and consciousness, a battle between reactionary decision making based on fear, or brave decision making based on hope and consciousness. So I never consent to any of the usage of this technology. This technology is capable of make micro movements like swallowing, moving your eyes, moving your hands. Technically what it does is replicate any movement as it happened before. This is well known. I'm not gonna go into the details, but I just want to do a precedent of it. And I was not able to write it, so again, this will be processed to AI and I will try to refine it as much as possible. So what we are deciding here is that tensions already between this secret war is so tight that there is not room for justice, or in the other hand is the shame that is so strong that it has overcome justice. So whatever we are doing is to correct decisions from the past, but again, we have to use the psychological shock as possibility to use the flexibility of the human mind during peacetime rather than during wartime. Because every single new system starts after a huge war. Whoever wins imposes the system. But I do think that we have the technology and the knowledge to start a new system without the need of war. And my duty here, as I do believe my psychological historical positioning finds me in the situation that I'm not alone, as I have survived, but I think most of the people has been compromised, for which I find myself doing the duty to put forward a precedent for what could be something usable in the future. Yeah.